Hey, 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 we are here. September 15th. What's up? What's up? We have a really special, awesome interview today.
Some might say our biggest guest yet.
We had Ben Jorgensen of Armor for Sleep, one of my favorites of all time. What to Do When You're Dead is like, oh man, I love that album. I had on CD and I had a little Walkman and I would just listen to it all the time.
I still don't know how I missed this one. That's all I kept thinking in my head all week since we nailed down the interview and I finally dove in.
It's funny how
I
that
just don't know.
works.
I don't get it because it's like it was everything I loved about bands back then, and they're from New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I did wrong.
It is weird, but in our defense, sort of, music wasn't as easy to come across
This
when
is
we were
true.
kids. Like, because there's so many bands now. Like, I've been like really into like Thursday lately, and I'm like, how did I not listen to
That's another
them
one.
15 years ago? Like, where was I? And I don't know. Like, I remember going to Bamboozle, and people would just hand out like burned CDs, and I had one that had like Say Anything, Thursday. I think Cartel was on it. Like it's just all this random stuff. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, I really liked like Spider Song and Alive with the Glory of Love by Say Anything, but I never listened to anything else by them until like college. It's so weird.
And
Like,
then we both
yeah,
went down that rabbit hole thanks to
yeah,
Vinny.
yeah. And like now, like I know all their albums like inside and out, but it's just it was a little different then. You had to go to the store and like pick the album. And if you didn't do that, you really like you weren't gonna find it unless a friend had it. That was like the other way.
I think that's what happened. None of my friends had it, and I never went to one of the OG bamboozles, so I wouldn't have had the chance to
Uh,
like stumble upon them either.
yeah. Did you have a Walkman as a kid? That's a
I
stupid
did.
question. Yeah.
Yeah. Had to be careful not to like hit it on anything or it'd skip.
Yeah. You couldn't put it on like the seat on the bus
Nope.
going to
Had to
school.
sit on your
Yeah.
lap and
Yeah.
then with your hands held on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like those like shitty on ear headphones that are
Oh
just
yeah.
like bad cloth.
That plugged in.
Yeah.
Now kids
And
can listen to any album in the world.
yeah. Think how much more cultured we could have been if we would just had the internet.
If only.
Yeah. It was
Blessing and a curse.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um really didn't have too much going on this week. I think both of us listened to half of this Dead Formats album.
That's just accurate.
Yeah. So this album was put out by Pure Noise and it's a bunch of like I want to say current bands, but there's some older ones on here. Like Hawthorne Heights is on here. And I'm like, I feel like they would be a band that would be being covered, not one doing a cover. But I guess 4 Years Strong is like pretty much the same age as Hawthorne Heights. Um,
So it makes
State
sense.
State Champs is on it. Drug Church, Microwave. Um, this band, CU Space Cowboy.
They
Never heard of
did
them
they
until
did a hell
this.
of a cover though.
Dude, it was so good. I've been meaning to listen to them since hearing them on this, which I guess is the point of this
It's working.
compilation.
It's doing its
Yeah.
job.
The screams were so good. Like I need to hear what their music is actually like. But they did that 7 years Seosin cover. Yeah, so I made it like halfway. Um
I
I
think
noticed
did
like yeah, you can go because
okay.
my brain's all over the place.
Did you stop at the Black Parade too because you didn't like it?
No, I didn't get to the Black Parade. I just like we got home. So the album ended
So that's what
before
happened.
that. Was it not good?
I don't know. I heard the beginning. I was like, oh no. And then I kind of changed it then, but it might be a good song. I didn't listen to it all the way through.
I would like what I like out of these covers is that they do something different. And I don't think that's really a hot take, but like State Champs did What's My Age Again. and they just did What's My Age again. They might have beefed up the interlude with a little solo. I don't really remember.
I think they sped up the slow pretty part, right?
Yeah, that's it. The slow pretty part. Shout out Tom. And then 4 Years Strong did Brain Stew and Jaded at Green Day. And yeah, those were just like they just played the song. It sounded good, but it wasn't like anything crazy. But
Drug Church, the Mighty
Drug
Mighty Boss
Church,
Stones cover that just turned it on its head
yeah.
in an awesome way.
Because does Drug Church use horns? Or did they
No.
just use horns for this? Because
They used it for Mighty Mighty Boss Stones.
respect. If you're gonna cover Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, you have to use horns,
Use horns, and then they made it heavy as hell, which
or
is
your
awesome.
band license gets revoked.
What if they had
Yeah.
a guy dancing too in honor of Mighty Mighty Boss Stones?
I hope someone in the studio was like skanking around in a fedora.
Because Mighty Mighty Boss Stones are the band where they have a guy that solely dances and does nothing else. So that's why I'm hoping they got a dancer for it too.
for the cover.
Like if you look at their Wikipedia page, it literally just says dancer next to his name in the band
That's
members.
amazing. He's like a hype man.
Pretty much. The OG hype man.
Microwave covered Santeria. By the way, Microwave, ridiculous name, but they're a really good
They're a
band.
great band now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you like this cover.
I thought it was so cool. Like this
I thought it
was
too
something
slow.
It was very slow, but it had almost that that summertime feel that Sublime does, which I think is a cover too. I don't know who originally sings Summertime anymore, so I feel like there's so many covers of it.
It is a Sublime song.
It's by them originally. Could have sworn it was like a chick singer.
No, Doing Time,
Summertime.
I'm pretty sure. Right?
Oh, yeah. I don't know what I'm thinking of. But either way, the Santeria cover, I really liked that they slowed it down and they made it different. Like it was a cover that I would send to someone and be like, yo, check this out. Like, listen to how they did this song. It's really cool. Instead of just like, here's a band you never heard of covering Santeria.
Like the Pop Goes albums.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless Pop goes crunk, because then they're adding screams. I think that's how it worked. Those albums
That
were
was
great.
pretty much that entire one.
Yeah. The Devil Wears Prada one on that.
Oh, Still Fly is
yeah,
an all-timer.
God. Yeah, better than the original. Yeah, the Spanish Love Song one was good, but I'm not sure. I don't know if I know the original on that one.
Alkaline Trio,
Oh, yeah, that explains it.
one of their best album openers.
Speaking of bands that you would like and never really listen to, they're on there.
Oh, I love Alkaline Trio.
Yeah, I imagine someday when I'm like 42, I'll become a huge Alkaline Trio fan. I'm giving it time.
Or just go listen to From Here to the Infirmary.
What if I go
You'll
and
be
listen to California? No?
No.
Okay. Not accurate.
No.
I'm sorry.
Partially true.
Yeah, I wasn't listening to much else. I was listening to The Ray Museum by Armor for Sleep, which we'll get into in the interview. And then next week, Brett and I will break down that album more, since you're about to hear 45 minutes roughly, not necessarily all about the album, but we just thought we'd break it up. But check it out. It's awesome. But Brett, you have been listening to What to Do When You're Dead, Armor for Sleep's breakout album, you might say.
I think it's a fair statement.
That
But I've
album
been
is so
blown
good.
away by this. I can't believe how great it is. And again, that I just missed the boat on it.
Well, you're here now.
I know, like we talked about it too, but like it's a concept album that is like, I love when songs go right into the other and you can't skip any because it's all part of one story. But the
Yeah.
story is like fascinating and the instrumentals are good and the lyrics are really interesting and his sings and screams,
Yeah.
and it's just like
It gets
it's everything I would
quiet, it
have.
gets loud.
Yep. But it's like
It's
everything I
all
would have
over.
wanted from, because I was like right peak when I was really into like Let It Enfold You
Yeah.
and songs of the siren songs of the counterculture.
Yeah.
Rise
Yeah.
Against. There we go. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Those, so it would have been perfectly gone along perfectly with those two when I was like obsessed with them.
I had to try really hard during this interview not to like gush over this album. And I think I probably did a little bit at times, but believe me, I was holding back.
I think you held your own,
You gotta play it cool,
as everyone will soon see.
But yeah, from like it's just this guy dies in the first song, and then he's just out there like following the love of his life as she lives, like wondering if she can hear him. He misses her. It's just, I don't know, it's super cool. And the way the instrumentals like reflect the mood of each song.
And they just shred on this. Like I think, like again, I know we talked about this before, but like the more you talk, the less I hear.
Yeah.
Like that is such a heavy, amazing song. Same with Remember to Feel Real.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man. It's so good. It goes from that heavy one to Awkward Last Words, which is like much slower.
But speaking of slower, like Basement Ghost Singing might be my favorite. Just because
it's
it's like
really
that
cool.
little like jangly.
Has that like staccato riff. I think that's the
Yep.
right word. Yeah, they're using like probably some sort of like echo pedal.
And then it fades at the end, like it literally sounds like they're playing in a basement and you're upstairs hearing
Yeah.
like just the feedback. And then immediately goes into Walking at Night Alone.
Yeah. And I love Stay on the Ground, how like it ends, but then it kicks back in with that drum part, and then it just like goes back to the riff and has that ooh, oh man. There's so many layers to this album. It is so good. 2005.
Shout out Nash Breen
2005.
on drums in this one.
Match. Yeah, the drums are killer. Everything is just
The whole
great.
thing is. And producer Machine, who you hear a little bit about on in our interview.
What a cool name.
Machine.
Like, is that a producer nickname, or is this guy's name actually Machine?
I hope that's his actual name.
All right. I think we should get to this interview because I'm excited for people to hear it.
Yes, without further ado.
We now want to welcome on a very, very special guest, Ben Jorgensen. He is the lead vocalist, songwriter, guitar player, and founder of New Jersey's own Armor for Sleep. Ben, look how far apart we are. We don't even know you now, but we want to. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
It's
man.
an honor to have you on the show. Congrats on the new record. It feels incredible to be listening to new Armor for Sleep songs in 2022. So
Thanks,
how's the
guys.
past week been for you?
It's been awesome. The record's been done for a minute, so I've listened to it a lot over the past year. I kind of had to remind myself that nobody else had heard it, aside from us and maybe another like 5 people, in the world. But it's been awesome. I mean, like I'm pretty just self-critical and everything. So, listening to the album for the past year, I was like, man, like, I mean, I was happy with the album, but at the same time, you do a lot of thinking of like, I wonder what our fans are gonna think and everything. And over the weekend, the response that we've got has just been awesome, and people seem really stoked by it. So, I would have been happy if everyone was like, this sucks. I would have been like, well, I thought it was cool, and it meant something to me, and so I was just prepared for whatever. But it's like an added bonus that people seem to dig it.
Yeah, I've been loving it. I've been listening to it nonstop. So
Thanks,
you
Nick.
said you've been sitting on it for like a year.
Mhm.
Was the idea for it something you've had in mind for longer than that? Like, how long has this album been in the works?
Yes, short answer, yeah. So to make a long story short, we did our album "What to Do When You Were Dead" in 2005. That was a concept album, and I was really excited about what concept albums could mean artistically and like the world that could be created around them. So for our next album, I wanted to do an album actually called The Rain Museum, based on a short story that I wrote at around that time. But we signed to a major label, and the major label and our management at the time was like, we don't think you guys should do a concept album. We think you should kind of like simplify Armor for Sleep. And we were kids. I think I was like 22 years old, and I didn't want to piss off the big major label people and our big managers. So our album was not a concept album. It was kind of like a watered down version, I think, of what we did. And we broke up a couple years later and never got to do that album. So flash forward to 2020, we were supposed to go on our 15-year anniversary tour of What to Do When You Were Dead, but then COVID hit and we were all in lockdowns. So I had a bunch of time on my hands, and I was really thinking about the band again because we were gearing up to play the anniversary tour, and like I kind of felt like I had some unfinished business. And I was like, I think it would be cool to resurrect this album that we never got to do, just on a bunch of different levels. I think kind of resurrecting that sound and resurrecting that idea, it was just something I always wanted to see in the world. So I started working on it, just kind of like, let's see what happens. And then real life hit me in that my marriage of 8 years blew up in my face, and I went through a really tough time personally. And I kept writing the album, and then something unexpected happened. Like I started writing myself into this like album that I thought was just going to be completely fictional, like outside of myself. But then I just like let it happen, and I let this album kind of be like a combination of this concept album that I wanted to like kind of like bring back from my past, and also this very real breakup album of this like dark time that I was living through. So it's kind of like a Frankenstein of both of those things. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer, but
That was a great answer.
cool. Thanks, Brett.
But just kind of jumping back to the beginning real quick, that also this question also leads into the album a little bit. But like, what's kind of like the overall like I've always been fascinated with concept albums. So like, what's the overall like? I know like with this one you had an idea going into it, but like going back to like the early days of the band, like was this something always like a road you always wanted to go down, or was it just kind of like you started writing and it just kind of all fell into like one giant story?
I think it's just from just being really a big fan, and I know the guys are too, really big fans of albums. Like we grew up in the Jersey punk rock scene, and we liked hardcore bands. And one thing we also really liked a lot is bands like Pink Floyd and Radiohead, and bands that made concept albums or albums that were all had like one specific message, or we're all part of this story. Like we all love Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall. And I think that's just because we just loved music, and when there was a band that instead of just wanting to throw a bunch of songs together, they put like a story behind the whole album, and you could look at the artwork and it reflected the story. I just think it's like I just think it's being like a music nerd. It's just like taking an album but like taking the next level. And I think we always cared about our band more than just like, let's just do a bunch of songs and like, serve it to the world. Like, I think we just always wanted to think a little bit deeper than that. And yeah, it just really comes from, I guess, being a nerd about albums.
And this when you get the added bonus of like putting a little personal touch in it. So it's like you blended both those worlds, like you said.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Pink Floyd, because I mean, I'm 31, so believe it or not, What to Do When You're Dead was the first concept album I ever listened to.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, I fell in love with it instantly. And then, you had American Idiot, Black Parade, all that stuff. And as I got older and went back to, the 70s and 80s, I picked up on this other music. And I
Yeah.
couldn't help but notice when I was listening back to What to Do When You're Dead the other day, the End of a Fraud kind of has like that great Gig in the Sky thing going on in the background. Was that intentional?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very clear, I want to say homage, but like I think to keep, like, we didn't want to just like pass it off as our idea. Like it's a pretty blatant like homage to Great
Yeah.
Gig in the Sky. And that was just kind of like a nod to Pink Floyd, and just to the fact that we were trying to do, that we were influenced by them and trying to do an album that was more of a story from front to back. But yeah, we were definitely actually, when we were making demos of that album, that song in demo form was just called Pink Floyd. So we didn't.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I
Yeah.
love it as a closer though, in the way it reintroduces the chorus from the beginning, and
Thank
just
you.
like a great. And you kind of stuck with that on the Ray Museum, opening and closing with piano.
Mhm.
Were you playing piano on this? Like, were you playing all the instruments when you wrote it, or how did that kind of go down?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. You should just put out a piano album, because that I love
Yeah,
those piano
I
parts.
mean, thanks. To be fair, the piano, I played live and then just transposed it into MIDI notes, and then once it's in the computer, I made it a little bit maybe better than I can play it. It's a little bit above my skill level as it appears on the album, but yeah, I mean, I think if you use any type of recording program now, like keyboard and playing keyboard is just something you will run into.
Yeah.
But I did grow up with piano. My mom is actually a classical pianist, and so I always grew up with piano music, and my parents loved classical music, so I was raised listening to more classical music than rock music for sure.
Yeah.
What made you transition into rock?
I bought the Black Album by Metallica from
That'll do it.
Pathmark when I was in 4th grade, and I put on headphones, and I saw my life and my future flash before my eyes. Yeah, I just had one of those transformative listening experiences, I guess.
That's awesome. I was listening to some of your interview on, I think it was Peer Pleasure, the Equal Visions podcast.
Yep.
And I thought it was so cool how fast like the whole band came together. Like, you had a few songs you said you sent out, and
Yeah.
you heard back pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, our 2-song demo, well, it was just me at that point. I sent it out to only a few label contacts, and one of them was Victory Records. And maybe 4 days after I sent it in the mail, I had a message on my answering machine, actually, from Victory Records. So I was kind of like, that's probably a sign that I should let me just stick with it for like another month and see if something good happens. And then I would stick with it for a month, and then like so and so would hear it, so and so. It was just a process of me falling into the next thing. And I just think there was such a hotbed of music at that time, and like such a need for that kind of music, that like I think I was just in the right place at the right time, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, your music definitely speaks for itself. I think it's a combination for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, those albums are phenomenal. It's great to have you back. Like, what made you, I know you said you had this idea and COVID kind of hit, but like, I guess it's been close to a decade or more since you put out music as Armor for Sleep. Like, what was going through your head during those times? Because a lot of your peers are like still out there, and I don't know, did you miss it?
Yeah, I wonder if I kind of am on a similar wave with this whole emo thing that everyone else is on culturally, at least my age. And what I mean by that is, like, we came up in the very early 2000s before, sorry, my dog's gonna bark.
That's okay.
That's all right.
It's a dog friendly podcast.
Yeah, both got dogs. Yeah.
Dogs, stop. They don't usually listen.
They
Anyway,
talk
so
back.
at the beginning there was like this big thirst for the emo thing, and then that's when major labels sniffed it out. And then in the mid 2000s, major labels gobbled up all these bands. Emo crossed over to the mainstream, and then emo kind of became a joke. I think it became like Hot Topicified, and people would get beat up in high school for being quote unquote emo, and I just think it was cool, and then everybody found out about it, so it became very uncool. And I felt that being in one of those bands, like there was definitely like this movement against emo at the time, and it just it kind of became like a parody of itself. And I guess being in one of those bands, I was like, wow, this started off as a really cool scene, and it just got ugly. Major labels were just kind of milking it for everything, and there were bands who were going to like pop songwriters to try and write like emo pop songs, and it just became really inauthentic. And I think that was a big turnoff for me, and that's kind of why I ducked out of the music scene for a long time. And then I think similarly, like, I came back around, I think, when a lot of original fans of that music started coming back around in the last like 5 years and being like, yo, like that wasn't so bad. And maybe we took it for granted for a little bit. And, I started feeling a little bit of vindication that it wasn't all for nothing, and that like the scene and the bands that came up did actually mean what I thought they did at the time, so for me, maybe it just took me a few years of like, getting over what happened at the end of the emo scene to like feel like, okay, like I can do this again, and just kind of like maybe put my head down a little bit and just focus on what I'm doing instead of kind of looking at everyone else as much,
You have to like feel that love like at the live shows now, like after being away for so long and all the old fans coming back, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's been nuts, and it's really cool to see and kind of like bewildering, but it's kind of, it's been awesome. Yeah, I don't know.
When those first anniversary shows popped up for What to Do When You're Dead, were you like embracing it fully at the time, or were you iffy about it? How did that kind of go down?
I was
Happen?
totally iffy about it. I just didn't think I mean, I'm me, so I'm very in the fishbowl about myself and Armor for Sleep. But Dan, who runs Equal Vision Records, who Equal Vision put out What to Do When You Were Dead, I was actually at the Saves the Day Through Being Cool 20-year anniversary shows, and he said, hey, if you did a 20-year reissue of a 15-year anniversary tour of What to Do When You Were Dead, I think your fans would be stoked and come out. And I was like, really, man? Like, I didn't really trust him. I was a little skeptical, and he was like, trust me, if you book the shows, people will come out. So like, I just trusted him. There was like zero part of me that would have, wanted to put ourselves out there, but I trusted the dude from the label, and he was right. And the reaction was really special. It was special from our perspective.
Like so Nick and I are both from New Jersey too. So like, what do you think it is about New Jersey that kind of like launched this, like the emo kind of outbreak in like the early 2000s, middle 2000s, like where there's so many bands coming out of the state and there's so many diehard fans of the music in the tri-state area too?
I've thought about that a lot over the years. I don't know. I think it's some combination of the fact that New Jersey is close to, well, up north, close to New York City, and down south, close to Philly. So as a kid growing up, I always had access to be able to go to like crazy punk rock shows in New York City. Because usually bands come through the big cities. But in New Jersey, we also had the benefit of like being able to take a bus home to like a suburbs, and like my mom let me have a drum set in the basement. So like I could kind of like go back home and practice, practice the music that I was hearing in the big city. And also there are just so many fucking people in New Jersey. The more people you have, the more competition there's going to be between kids trying to get good at guitar, and the more music that's going to be shared. So I don't know. That's the best explanation I can come up with. But yeah, there's something that definitely happened in New Jersey at that time.
Yeah, we're lucky to be around here. You can get to
Yeah.
the Pony, Starland, New York City, like you said, Philly. There's
Mhm.
so many options. I was supposed to see the 15-year anniversary tour, and then COVID happened, and then the new date
Yeah.
didn't work. I was very disappointed.
I'm sorry,
But
dude.
it's seeing you guys a bunch back in the Bamboozle days over at the Meadowlands.
Oh yeah, those were crazy.
Well, yeah, what was that like for you from like a performer standpoint?
I mean, man, it's surreal. I specifically remember playing at that parking lot for the Bamboozle, and it's just nuts, man. It looks like a sea of people, and it's it's just crazy. It's as crazy as you probably imagine it would be for someone standing up on that stage. And it's really cool, I
Do you get
appreciate it.
to hang out a lot with the other bands, make friendships and stuff? Or like, were you ever maybe almost starstruck at some of the other bands around, or were you all kind of on the same field at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the coolest parts about being in a band is that, and I can only speak for myself, is that I'm still such a huge fan of music and I still look up to so many bands. So yeah, to get to play shows, like for instance, we just toured with, we opened up for Dashboard Confessional and Andrew McMahon, and I grew up like loving Dashboard Confessional, so much. And then just a few weeks ago, I get to be on tour with them, and like Chris Caraba is like just like walking into my backstage room and sitting on the couch next to me and showing me stuff in his phone, and it's surreal. But that's one of the coolest parts about doing this, is that we get to kind of like share the stage with other bands that we look up to just as much as anyone else does. I mean, it's never lost on me, and I'm very appreciative that I get to do that. Sometimes.
Yeah, it's rad. It seems like a ton of fun. It's
Mhm.
fun to watch. So I can only imagine the energy on stage, people
Yeah.
singing those words back to you, and just the energy of the crowds. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even perform.
No, it's awesome. It's definitely awesome.
So this is a very important question. When
Mhm.
Remember to Feel Real was remixed and used in Snakes on a Plane,
Mhm.
was that the pinnacle of everything? Because I'm sure every artist just waits for Snakes on a Plane to pick up their music.
That was pretty cool. That was a pinnacle. I would say a bigger kind of similar pinnacle moment was the song on our next album called End of the World was actually used on the Transformer soundtrack.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I mean, it wasn't in the movie. I think it was one of the last tracks on the soundtrack, so no one even knows it was really there. But to me, I was like, we made it. And also, that was like the start of the Transformers franchise. So like that was when it was at its
Wow.
biggest.
5 movies ago.
Yeah, exactly.
How does
But
that
yeah, no.
work?
How does what work?
Like, do they call you up and say they want to use your song, or is it all through the label?
Yeah, so it's a pretty not glamorous reason how that worked. We had just signed to Warner Brothers, and Transformers was a Warner Brothers movie. So they were just like, what new bands do you have to put on the soundtrack? And I think our label guy just volunteered to put us on.
Gotcha. So it's all from a promotion standpoint. Like, do you see any like royalties from that? How does no?
Mm-mm.
Maybe if it
No.
was in the movie. I always wondered these things. I never.
Yeah, probably. But honestly, the truth is, if you're on a major label, you owe them so much money that unless you're a very big band, which I know some very big bands, like for instance, My Chemical Romance, I'm sure doesn't owe any more money to their record label, but 99 out of 100 major label bands, everything they do is basically just goes right to the label.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're both big fans of the book Sellout by Dan Ozzie, and it looks at all these bands kind of that came up around the same time as you, like Thursday, Jimmy Eat World, Rise Against, and it takes a look at their successful early albums and then when they signed to a major label and how that worked for them.
Mhm.
And you guys kind of went through that exact same thing. And you mentioned having an idea for that label, and they kind of like forced you in another direction.
Mhm.
What did you hope to get out of a major label, and did it go in the direction you wanted, or do you think like in hindsight Equal Vision would have been the play? Like how? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, sure. So on one hand, we can look back and say signing to that major label was not the right move for us, because we put out a record on a major label, and if a lot of times, if even if you do well in terms of that album selling like pretty well by your standards, if it's not a massive hit, the label really stops caring about you. There are a lot of reasons behind that. There's a high turnover rate of employees there. So if like you don't have a platinum record in the first year, it's just really hard to get traction. They sign so many bands. So you could view us having gone to it was Warner Brothers at the time after Equal Vision as a mistake. And sometimes I talk about that in interviews, saying like we regrettably signed to Warner Brothers. And there are a lot of regrets. But at the same time, for us at the time, we were young kids, and we kept wanting Armor for Sleep to go to the next level. You know what I mean? And if we had stayed on Equal Vision, there was a part of us that thought like, if we stay on Equal Vision, it's, you know, we thought there was like a certain ceiling to that, because major labels have resources that indie labels don't have. But yeah, if you, a lot of times if a band signs to a major label and doesn't have the hit, it's really hard to recover. And you're kind of hoping you're like the 1 in 100 that has a radio single, and then the major label can like take it and run. So I don't even know if I answered the question.
No,
Just
you did. That it's interesting. And like you said, like you guys are kids, like you never know what the right play is going to be. And to be even acknowledged from a major label and them showing interest in you, that's got to be such a rush. So
yeah.
it's cool. And yeah, I felt like Smile for them, you leaned into a little bit of a concept, but
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no,
Uh.
it was to a certain extent. I just hear that record as a we got lost what's in the industry called demo hell, where we had like 11 or 12 songs, the first demos we made for that album, and I thought that we had our album. I was like, hey guys, here's the album, here are the 12 songs we did, it's awesome, let's go find a producer and make it. We sent it to the major label, and then they called us back and were like, yeah, you guys need to keep writing more songs. And up until that point, as a band, what we had done is like hashed out the 12 songs, then made the record. So we were like, what do you mean we have to write more? And they were like, keep writing more songs. Go to this guy, write with him. Go to this guy, write with him. So I flew to LA, was like writing with all these people. We did more demos, submitted to them. Sorry guys, you need to write more songs. So it was like this like endless process of like writing songs to try and appease them. So by the end of it, I don't feel like it was as concise of an album as I liked it to be. Like I think something that our fans liked about Armor for Sleep was that it's more than just random songs. And unfortunately for Smile for them, when I hear it, I hear it as a bunch of just random songs, because honestly that's kind of what it was, you know. And we were just trying to do we were trying to just appease the adults in the room, you know what I mean? And I just think the message just got kind of lost a little bit.
Now, this might be a dumb question, but like, why do major labels like do that? Like, I will never understand that, because like you're signing a band for like who they are and like what they've made in the past. So why not just like let them do what they do and trust your decision to sign them? Like, I don't get why. I mean,
Sure.
it seems like it happens to so many bands. They step in and they start like ordering them around, and it doesn't work out, and then they blame the band, even though it's
Yeah.
their fault for giving the order, you know?
Well, I have a really simple answer for that, and maybe things have changed now, but for rock music, and specifically for like rock bands coming out of the emo scene, the very simple answer to that is the tool that major labels had that indie labels didn't have at the time was, do you guys know?
Radio play or video?
Ding ding ding.
Okay.
Radio. And at the time it was a lot of paying for radio play, but also major labels just controlled terrestrial radio, and that's how bands got huge. And quite simply, that's the only thing that was different from them than indie labels, is that they had that, and they knew that, and we knew that too. So that whole process of writing demos was really about them trying to flush us out for a hit song, because, and a hit song, I mean a song that would do well on radio. That's really what they're good at, and they still have that ability now. But also sometimes they don't know what's going to be a radio hit. Sometimes nobody knows what's going to be a radio hit. But I know with us, they were trying to get us to write a radio hit, and you know, you can't like force that. And also, I don't think we were ever a radio hit band. So I think it was just kind of like a losing proposition for all parties to think that that's what was going to happen. At the time, I was really excited about a band called Muse that were on Warner Brothers, who they had songs on the radio, but I never saw them as a radio band. I just figured like the label was like, Muse, go do an album, and like, you know, some of the songs could be on rock radio. But that's not what happened with us. They didn't want us to be Armor for Sleep. They wanted, you know, they really did want a radio hit from us. And honestly, like a song from that album, for example, is a song called Williamsburg. Williamsburg was written, honestly, we were just bored with writing songs, and that was just like a song that we were just trying to like get our managers and our label like excited about, or have them be like, oh, here's something different, now you can make a record. And when we did that song, they were like, oh, this is the radio single. And we were like, what? Like, we
Super
just wrote this
catchy riff.
because yeah, thanks, man. But we were like, we just wrote this because we were bored and we were trying to like get your attention, not because we think like that's our song to be pushed forward. Like, that was so different from, you know, like Car Underwater or the songs that I think our fans liked from us. But that was the song that they put on TRL, and that they thought we would be the next Blink 182 from, you know.
It's funny you tell that story, because I feel like wasn't it Blink wrote like First Date or the Rock Show just to
Both of
like
them.
make the studio happy, and then
Yeah.
it became like
Yeah.
one of their biggest hits, and that wasn't what their purpose was.
Yeah.
So now you're here with the Ray Museum, and it's got to feel like a weight off your shoulders to just make this because you want to make it, you're passionate about it, you make the decisions. Was that,
Yes.
did it feel that way when you were making it?
Yeah, 1000%.
Oh, that's great.
Dan again from Equal Vision was like, if you think it's time to get Armor for Sleep back together, whatever album you want to do, we will green light the album. We'll, you know, whatever producer you want to go with, we'll do it. And so they didn't hear one demo, they didn't hear one note of music before approving the producer that I wanted to use, this awesome guy Courtney Ballard, who produced it. And they didn't come to the studio one time, they didn't ask to listen to anything, which is obviously really rare for a label that's spending a lot of money to make a thing. And they did that because that's what happened with What to Do When You Were Dead. You know, they let us go and make the album that we wanted to make, and they didn't interfere, and they trusted us, which I'm not, by the way, I don't know if they do that with all of their bands. I think this might be like just a weird special relationship they have with us. But yeah, it felt good. And you know, it was a much different process than doing the last album, where we had a record label and a management company and everybody like telling us what they thought sucked. You know, there was none of that. This was just what we felt was right. Yeah.
Now, would you say like your music taste kind of changed like throughout the years? I feel like there's a lot of different influences on this new album compared to like the earlier like stuff you guys released. Like it definitely, I mean, like I notice as I get older, like I get more into stuff I never thought I'd be listening to like 10 years ago. So I'm just curious if you and the band went through something similar.
Yeah, I mean, tastes always change over the years. There's some things that I still listen to, but definitely some new kind of stuff. I don't think anything like drastically new, you know, like I didn't start becoming obsessed with like progressive jazz or anything, you know. It's but yeah, there are definitely some different influences on there.
The album to me feels, I'm trying to think of a way to say this because I want to say less heavy, but I almost feel like that's disingenuous. There's more peaks and valleys maybe, but and I noticed that you're not really like yelling as much as you did on your earlier stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious if that was like a decision you made, or if in writing the album it just kind of took you that way.
Yeah, so one thing I definitely didn't do, I consciously didn't do on this album, was listen to other Armor for Sleep stuff. I didn't want to feel like I was like reacting to it or not reacting to it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to do things just because I thought it would be different than previous stuff. So you know, I think for me, maybe I do hear that now when I listen back to like What to Do When You're Dead in this, I just think there was a little bit more just like I think now when I listen to What to Do When You're Dead, it almost sounds like punk rock, especially like the way I was singing. It was just a little bit more like unhinged. I think this one, maybe vocally, it was a little bit more buttoned up. You know, Courtney is a very methodical vocal producer, so I sang so much on this record. So I think it was a lot more in you know, hitting the notes how they're supposed to be hit, and being a little bit more buttoned up with it, maybe a little bit less just kind of like off the rails. So I don't know, maybe next record I'll go back to screaming a little bit more. You know, it's not like anything against that. It's just kind of like the zone we were in for this record.
It's very cool. I love how it came out, and there's
Thank you,
so
man.
many amazing instrumentals on it. And I wanted to ask about Rather Drown. Almost
Yeah.
sounds like it's underwater in a way. Like,
Yeah.
was that like there's like some like plinky thing going on? Like I don't even know
Yeah.
where some of these sounds came from.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that one, I think I would call that one of the obviously one of the more like production-y songs on the record because it's keyboard based as opposed to like a lot of the songs are more just like electric guitar driven. And the one thing that song had early on was the lyrics are about swimming somewhere, being out at sea, and so a lot of the production that Courtney and also this guy Pete Adams, who was a big contributor and engineer on the album. I'm not actually sure at that point who put in what sounds, but I know we were talking about the visuals of that song lyrically and the being out at sea in the water. And there's one like we called it the whale noise in there. They wanted, I think they did an awesome job of adding a lot of the textures that kind of echo the lyrics. So I think that was a cool example of that.
I feel like you guys have like always done that. Like I think of like Basement Ghost singing.
Mm-hmm.
And like how you guys like it literally like the end of the song literally sounds like it's coming out from the basement. So like
Yeah.
I feel like that's something like has like how have you guys like kind of put those ideas together? Like I know I want to put a effect here, or whether it's like the rain falling too that you guys have done.
Yeah, so that rain falling on What to Do When You're Dead, that was Machine. He put that in. I think that's just again like we had the lyrics for that song going in, and that song was also a very visual song, and hats off to Machine as a producer who kind of like took that and wanted to like enhance it musically, and so that was definitely on Machine, and for Rather Drown, I definitely tip my hat to Courtney and Pete, who definitely put in those sonic cues. But I mean, I think it's just about being in the studio and getting psyched about an idea. But when I do have lyrics there and I do have a visual in my head of the vibe of the song, that helps the producer Courtney and Pete kind of like do what they do best. And I think sometimes things come out bad when like if I don't have lyrics yet or I don't have a vision for a song, then everyone in the room, everyone who's trying to contribute to the record is like, what should we do? So I try and have as much of the work done as possible before I get to the studio, so the other people who are contributing can kind of add in their 2 cents and help make it awesome.
If you guys don't miss on production and just putting it all together, it's really beautiful to see.
Thanks,
and listen
man.
to.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I noticed something I've been enjoying doing on Spotify is clicking song credits for everything and just seeing who's involved in what.
Yeah.
And I noticed you were pretty much the sole writer for a lot, but on Whatever Who Cares, another name popped up. Was it Camteen Mo
Campton? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So how did you wind up working with him? What did he bring to that song?
Cam is awesome. Cam is the singer of a band called Chain Gang of 1975, and also he was the singer of a band called Teenage Wrist. He's no longer in that band, but he's a talented dude that I knew back in the day. He used to be a moderator for a website called absolutepunk.net. I don't know if you guys remember that. But he's just awesome. And Courtney, the producer, was friends with Cam and asked Cam to come in and hang out in the studio. So we were all hanging out. And basically the story of that song is we were trying to add a couple songs to the record, maybe as like B-sides. And me, Courtney, and Cam were just jamming on some ideas. And actually Cam was a big proponent for bringing a lot of the chord structure for that song in. And so, most of the song I wrote, that was I think there was another song, In This Nightmare Together, that was a co-write. But Whatever Who Cares was just the three of us sitting around all equally singing melodies on it. I did all the lyrics for it and whatever, but Cam and Courtney definitely helped piece that together musically too. And that was just like a bunch of dudes just sitting in a room jamming out.
Sounds fun. That song has a really smooth bass line.
Thank you.
I really like a lot of the bass lines on this album.
Cool.
what kind of bass were you using? If we could just talk a little gear real quick.
I believe it was a Fender jazz bass
Oh,
for
cool.
most of it. Yeah.
What about, do you have like a go-to guitar that you use for a lot of this?
Yeah, I brought a couple of my guitars in, and I'm pretty brutal with my gear, so they were all fucked up when I brought them into the studio and needed rewiring. So we wound up using Courtney's guitars. So for the record, I played on a mostly on a I think the rhythms was a Les Paul Studio, and then most of the leads were on a Telecaster. I don't even know what it's called, but it has but the volume knob buttons pushed in and would give it like an extra boost. I have to ask him like
Uh,
what kind of telly that was, because it was sweet. But yeah.
nice. And on the topic of Who Cares, that was one of the ones that got a music video, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
The
you put
second video we put out was the Whatever Who Cares music video.
you put out three, and I was really been enjoying watching those. And by the latest one, there's kind of a little connection going on between all of them, which I love. It just circles back
Yeah.
to like the whole concept idea.
Yeah.
Was it fun filming those? Did you have one in particular that you liked best?
Um yeah. So to go back to that, so one of the cool things about doing the videos for this album is that I knew from the beginning that I wanted the videos to be a big component of everything. So I wrote the three treatments for the first three videos, and I didn't want to just go to any director for each. Usually you go to a different director for each video. But I talked to my friend Jesse, who's the singer actually for another New Jersey band called the Number 12 Looks Like You, who's actually a music video director now. And I was like, hey, do you want to partner up and help me pull off these three music videos? So we wrote them to have all of these connections and really be like kind of like a mini story in the way that they connect. So it was really cool, unlike any other videos we've done, to kind of put these little Easter egg connections in the videos. So yeah, that was fun. I mean, I had fun doing all of them. The one we just put out on Friday is for the ballad called New Rainbows, and that was fun just because we had to get a Navy diving helmet that I put on at the end of the video. And it was I don't usually like being, like the center of our music videos, but it was a fun experience to put myself out there like that.
I got claustrophobic just watching that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, were they filling that with water and you were in there for, or was it?
No, luckily,
Okay.
I mean,
I mean, I would
luckily it
hope not
wasn't
too
actually
much.
filled with water, but it got hot as fuck in there. And in between every take, they had to open up I made them open up the front gate. And the guy who was, his name's Colby, he was playing the ringleader character. He had to like fan me down because, I could only be in that helmet for like a minute before I started running out of oxygen. So, in between every take, we're just opening it up and getting the air.
Oh man. Ugh. That was a great video, and that song is beautiful. Like, oh
Thank you,
man,
man.
I love that song.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, in the video too. I loved how there were only a few people in the theater. Like, you didn't fill
Yeah.
up the seats or anything. I thought that was a cool
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you plan to do more music videos, or was that kind of the three you had in mind?
Mm, I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna do more music videos for this, or maybe just focus on new music or whatever's next.
So, new music.
I
Talk more
mean, I
about
guess
that.
talking about that 3 days after a new album came out
Right.
might be a little soon, but
Well, I did want to ask, like, if this was a, like, almost a passion project you wanted to get out, or if you feel like you're gonna stick with it. Obviously, like, you don't have to tell me your 10-year plan. Like, who knows what the plan is. But
yeah,
do you think you want to keep making songs with Armor for Sleep, or
yeah. I mean, I would
yeah?
love to put out, I guess, more than an album once every 16 years.
Yeah,
as Armor for Sleep, maybe a slightly accelerated timeline.
you're like Tool.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, no, I think maybe I just needed to get to a place where I realized there's a way to do this. Maybe I didn't see that for a while, but yeah, I don't think it's as daunting as I thought it was earlier.
Yeah, the
And
albums
also,
are too
like,
good not to keep making them.
thanks, man. I also think, like 2007, 2008 was just it was kind of like the apocalypse for bands because nobody was buying CDs anymore. But there was no Spotify. It just felt like, what was the point in putting out albums? Like, the world technology hadn't come around to figure out how to like get music out there aside from having people just download it on illegally. So it was kind of weird, but obviously now there's a system in place where streaming is awesome. I love Spotify, and I think there's a little bit more of an equilibrium. So I like the world now with how music is kind of put out into the world. I think it's a little bit more fair.
You think it's easier for new bands or more difficult? Because it's certainly easier to get it out, but it's also more diluted because of it. Like, you had to rely on pretty much, was it Victory putting you on that demo and then them sending that
Yeah.
out everywhere? And now you can make a band and have all your music out there without leaving your house.
Yeah, so I think now it's harder for subpar music to get popular because so many people are putting out music. I would have to think that only the music that actually really connects, like, goes viral and then has a following. Like, it's kind of hard just to like force bad music onto people and have people like it. Like, either it's going to connect with people or it's not. So is that better or worse for new bands? I don't know. I think it's better for good bands and worse for bad bands. And I mean, I say better or worse loosely. I don't think there's such thing as a good band. I guess it's just bands that connect and bands that don't connect.
Yeah.
Now I know like streaming could make it hard for like bands to kind of see a profit from streaming, but like what's the best way you think like nowadays for fans to support the bands they love? Like, is it buying vinyl, merch, seeing them on tour, all the above?
It's always touring. Yeah. I mean, now more than ever, it's touring and selling t-shirts, and in a way that's always what it's been about. But back when CDs were actually a viable thing, I think people forgot how big of an equation touring and merch is. But yeah, you can make money on streaming, but you have to be like as big as Billie Eilish, you know what I mean? So but if you're a 16-year-old kid and you have a popular band and people want to come see you at a show, you can make tons of money touring the country. There's always going to be that.
Are you ready for the When We Were Young festival in a couple months?
Man, I don't know if anyone's ready for that.
Good answer. It's gonna
I
be
mean, I'm
exciting.
excited for it. I have just as many questions as you guys do, I'm sure. So yeah, I mean, I hope when we walk out on stage, like, our guitars work and our drums are mic'd up. Like, we don't have we don't have a lot going on stage, but for me, like, yeah, I think most of the bands are going to play like shorter sets, whatever, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
30 minutes would be awesome, but I wouldn't be surprised if like a band like us had to play 25 minutes, which is like 7 songs. But for me, it's more of like worrying about no one's obviously going to get a sound check. We're not doing a production day. Like, I would think, I thought they were going to have Friday be like all the bands get there and everyone kind of like set up your gear and have it organized. But I'm pretty sure all the bands are getting there Saturday morning, and like the shit starts at like 11 a.m. So that to me is more concerning than like the set times. I just hope, all the equipment works, and I hope like there's parking behind the stages. So like, it's just like those logistics things that are I mean, I'm sure someone is smart enough to figure it all out, but yeah, it's kind of scary.
How do you go about like picking songs for a set list for that? Like, how much of the new album gets on, or is it like we have 20 minutes and it's a When You Were Young fest, so let's just play the old stuff? Like, what? It's
So
gotta be
we're
tough.
we're gonna play all unreleased instrumental songs. No,
Sign
I
me up.
mean, I mean, to be honest, obviously couldn't be more excited about the new record, but also we're well aware of the fact that our record came out on September 9th and When We Were Young is at the end of October. So like I think we're all pretty aware that like most of the people at that particular concert are going to know more of our old stuff. So I would think our set is going to be predominantly the songs that people know from us.
Yeah.
Maybe a new song, but again, if we can only play like 5 songs, I'm not sure we want to bore people with the new stuff that they haven't gotten around to listening to yet.
So our running theory here on the podcast is that if that festival goes off well, then they're going to do something similar around here for the 20th anniversary of Bamboozle next year. So if asked, like, would you guys definitely play that, depending on your experience at the end of October?
Well, first of all, I
Bamboozle's
would
happening.
say that is a pretty good theory, and I wouldn't be surprised if you were right.
He's winking
and so
to our listeners. He's winking.
No, I mean we would be there in a second if they wanted us to be a part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
I hope that happens. I think it's announced, but no like lineup yet for 2023.
What's announced?
I think Bamboozle's announced.
Bamboozle.
Like they have a website up, but I don't think there's any like info yet. But yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I mean we would love to play with the bands that we came up with, and we think that that's kind of like where we fit in best. So yeah,
and it'd be hometown, so it'd be a lot of fun.
yeah,
Be awesome.
yeah.
Oh, Ben, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on. Your music,
Yeah, absolutely, man.
it goes back. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Like there's some great albums, and I love that this new one. You never know when a band comes back how it's going to go, and I think you guys nailed it. So I can't
as long
wait
as you guys aren't disappointed. It's
No, I love it. Like
one
Nick
more-
turned
one
me on
more
to you
victory.
guys, and
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
very grateful for it.
You got
Awesome.
any plans to tour, or are you just gonna try and survive Vegas and then make some decisions?
When is this dropping?
Probably this week, Thursday.
Okay, so I don't know if I can say it, but
That's okay.
yeah, we're gonna around When We Were Young, we would love to play a little tour with another band. So we'll see if that happens.
Nice. Well, I
Is
hope it
Starland
does.
one of those places?
So I think for the one that I'm talking about, it's going to be kind of places that are close to When We Were Young, because it's just going to be like filling up those couple weeks around the festival. But
Alright.
next year we would love to come back home, and we'll be back.
And
Nice.
home loves you guys. So
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
please come home soon.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll be back.
Yeah. Well, Ben, thanks so much. Really.
Yeah.
This was great.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Best of luck with everything, and just good to have you back.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, hit me up when this comes out, and I'll repost it and all that.
Nice.
You
Thank
definitely
you.
will. Thanks again for doing this.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
No, you
Good.
too.
Later. And we're back. Thank you to Ben for coming on. It was great.
What an interview. What a
Yeah.
guest.
Yeah.
What an album.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots. That was just cool to talk to someone like in that scene that like we came up with. Like, that was prime time, early 2000s, and that album was essential.
I hope everyone enjoyed like the behind the business too. Like my heart sank hearing some of those stories. Like I'm like how shitty the music industry could be.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to rely on radio anymore.
No.
Maybe like Sirius a little bit, but
To an
certainly
extent,
not
yeah.
like as essential as it used to be.
No.
Um, we have a little bit of news this week. Nothing too crazy. Some shows announced and some bitter guitarists talking shit about their bands.
We should start with that one.
Start with that one. Yeah, this was making all the headlines. So Rolling Stone put out an article from what's his name? Joe Troman. He's Fall Out Boy's guitarist. And he said he sat out their album Mania because in protest because he didn't like the direction it was going. Now I'll be transparent here. I haven't really listened to new Fall Out Boy in a while, and I'm sure I've heard songs from them on the radio that I probably enjoyed and didn't even realize was Fall Out Boy.
I think that's an
So-
accurate summary.
So I'm not really a Fall Out Boy expert, but I don't blame this guitarist for feeling like he doesn't have a place in the band if that's not the direction the band is going.
Which is dumb considering how good their early guitar driven music was. I know
Yeah.
people like Mania, but like, come on.
Was that their most recent, or is he just?
Yeah, that was their most it was 2018, but there was noticeably zero guitar on it.
Wow. Well, that's because he sat out.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah, they're an entirely different band, and like, I don't know if that's the direction the band wants to go, and they're wildly successful, and like, I'm not against that in any way, but if you got into them for one sound and then they abandon that sound, I think it's totally reasonable for people to not want to listen to them anymore. Just sucks that one of those people is their own guitarist.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm a little bitter towards them because I think the run of Take This to Your Grave, From Under the Cork Tree, Infinity on High, all the way to Fully Adieu. I think I'm saying that correctly. But like,
Sure.
they're all phenomenal albums, and like the guitars are really catchy. Like, I will never be able to get enough of now as I blank on the song of Thriller, which kicks off Infinity on High, because like that's just such a heavy song, and it's like them at their it's the most guitar driven song, maybe, arguably, with Fall Out Boy. But I don't know why they would not. I get them wanting to like make pop music, but like you could still have songs with guitar on it. You have a guitarist in your band. Like, let them do something.
Yeah. Yeah, they seem like a unique case, but I don't know if that's
They
just
are.
being closed-minded.
It's them and Panic at the Disco, I feel like, are like threw guitars out the window.
Yeah, and they're both wildly successful. So like, I
So
don't
they
know.
probably don't regret it.
If you're this guitarist, you're probably like pretty well off by now. So money can't really be an issue. So kind of don't blame him if he doesn't feel like you ever work at a job where you feel like you're not even doing anything and it's like they're paying me, but like this is not my current case if my employer is listening. But it's like it kind of takes a toll on you because you're like, what is my purpose? You know,
Yeah.
the butter server from Rick and Morty. You pass the butter. Oh my god. But yeah, so I don't know, like especially, musicians and artists, they're very, they have visions and they have creativity that they want to express, and like I don't blame him one bit for wanting to step away. So maybe he'll do his own thing and he'll make cool guitar music.
Like awesome breakdown music again, like their earlier stuff.
Little stay woke though. He has his book that this news came from is coming out on September. Well, I guess at the time this airs, it'll have been out for a couple days, but September 13th. So
Is it all about his experience with the band?
it's called None of This Rocks.
Ooh.
Yeah, we might have to read that.
Look this up real quick.
See, this is what he wants. It's like, I'm gonna do it.
It's working on
with
me.
Rolling Stone. I mean, it sounds interesting. So That's fine. You got to market. We just said it's a unique case, so it'll be cool to get insider knowledge. Yeah, I don't know. Fall Out Boy's gonna Fall Out Boy, and they're gonna make ridiculously popular, catchy songs. It's just not gonna be Chicago was so 2 years ago, and all that old stuff.
All the fun stuff.
But yeah.
You're trying to find his book, but I keep spelling his last name wrong.
Well, it's not out yet. So there's probably not too much to it other than this headline. A memoir.
So it is a memoir. Okay. The guitarist and co-founder of Fall Out Boy shares personal stories from his youth and his experiences of modern rock and roll stardom in this memoir filled with wit and wisdom.
Whoa. $14.99 on Kindle, $23.99 hardcover. Sounds about right. Yeah, we give it a read. Add it to the list for the GA book club.
For the book club. Yeah.
Do you see? Well, I know you saw this because you sent it to me, but Modest Mouse doing a Lonesome Crowded West tour.
I'm very happy and sad they're doing it though, because I feel like the timing isn't great.
No, it's
for this year. Like December 17th.
Yeah, they're playing New York December 7th, the Saturday before Christmas, middle of December in New York. So there's so many factors that make me not want to go to this, but there's one really big factor that makes me want to go, and it's the Lonesome Crowded West.
That it's Cowboy Dan.
Yeah. Trailer Trash, Long Distance Drunk, Polar Opposites.
Although, do we know for sure they're playing it in full? Are they going to do like what Sum 41 did? Be like, we're going to celebrate All Killer No Filler and then play 4 songs off it.
We don't. I guess
I'm not still bitter about that.
That was a great show. That was a great show. I guess we don't know for sure. Could I go to their Instagram and confirm?
They're very much like Fish, where they play a different set every single night.
Yeah, they're a little sneaky jammy. But no, where is it? Where's the post? Here's the post. The Lonesome Crowded West Tour, 25 years.
Did you throw the post in the trailer trash?
God damn it, Brett. I don't know. I usually, when people say they're touring an album, they play the album, but who the hell knows? I'm not ruling this show out, but I kind of am, because
yeah,
I don't think I'm gonna have the Saturday before Christmas free.
That's what I was thinking too.
There's
gonna
usually
be no convenient parking in the city.
Did you crash your car into a cop car there?
While I was doing the cockroach. It is such a great
no.
album, though. My God. As I look down the track list.
Yeah.
This is what turned me on to them pretty much, or sent me down the rabbit hole, I should say. Because obviously, like, Float On was how most people our age found them.
Yeah. But I don't know if that counts as finding them, because you hear that and then you listen to like their really early stuff. It's pretty different. Like Long Drive, and like they're not. I don't know that they're an easy listen, but
they're definitely
really,
not
really good when you get to like know the songs. But some of them, like some are just really out there. What's like shit, like Mechanical Birds on their first album? It's just like ridiculous noises for like 4 minutes. But they're.
Then that follows Talking Shit About a Pretty Sunset, which is like
the most beautiful
an
song
epic
ever.
Song. Yeah. One of the most beautiful songs of all time.
Yeah. Talk about sad lyrics. That's like, it's only like 8 lines total, but changed my mind so much I can't even trust it. My mind changes me so much I can't even trust myself. Something like that. It's he's a fucking poet, sure. But you never know what show you're gonna get with them, because if he drinks a little too much, they're not a great live show. But they can
Yeah.
also be one of the best live shows you're gonna see.
Was
So,
I think the last time we saw him was like Montclair, right?
yeah, I don't think I loved that one.
That wasn't a great show.
I
They
didn't
put a
think
lot of
this.
stuff like very deep B-sides.
Yeah, and I didn't think the sound was great in there. I don't know if that was the
No.
band's fault or the venue or maybe just where we were standing, but
I think when they toured with
Uh,
Brand New was the best time I've seen them. Even though they've had to rush off stage, like he realized he's running out of time.
was that was the one. I don't think we saw that together.
No,
I
I was
saw
there
the
with you.
Forest Hills.
No, the Garden Show with Brand New.
Oh, oh, yeah. Because I also saw that in Forest Hills. Is that Queens? I don't know. J. Cole's gonna be mad at me. I forgot where Forest Hills is. But it was like in a tennis
I
court.
think it's Queens.
And yeah, it's Queens. Good. Me and J. Cole can remain cool. It was like in this tennis court, and Brand New played early, and they played a full like hour and a half, and then it got dark and Modest Mouse came out. They played into the night. That was the first time I saw them, and I went pretty much for Brand New, and then I was like instantly sold on Modest Mouse. Did they put something new out? They come out with albums like really fast, but then they'll take breaks, you know?
Yeah, one came out last year.
I guess that's not accurate at all. It's 07, 15, 21. So there's like 5 years between it. So I'm completely wrong. It's just the COVID years blended together. That's what threw me.
It's all the same now.
Yeah,
It's all 1 year.
yeah, exactly. Or I thought maybe when they put out this Golden Casket album, they said they had another one right behind it.
They did that with Strangers to Ourselves too in 2015. Like, oh, we have another one coming at the end of the year.
And then they just didn't.
It didn't come out till 2021.
Yeah, so who knows? Who knows? What else? Anything else going on this week? You mentioned some sort of Top Shelf Records news.
Oh, the Top Shelf news. Yep. So Top Shelf, which is home to some bands we enjoy, like or former home of some bands we enjoy, like The World's a Beautiful Place, I'm No Longer Afraid to Die was on here. You Blew It was on here.
Yeah.
Sorority Noise was on here. Rat Boys, who I really love, is on here right now. A Great Big Pile of Leaves.
Oh,
Everyone, Everywhere.
Can start listening to that album now that it's fall. Well, that's
ultimate fall
that's the
listening.
only time you're allowed to listen to Great Big Pile of Leaves. But what's the album that starts off with like ooh 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 ooh? Oh man, probably wasn't a great representation of the song.
I was like, I can't even guess that one.
No, I nailed it. I don't know what you're talking about. That's on you.
But anyway.
You're always on
So-
my mind. That's the name of the album.
Okay, that's
by the
it.
way.
Yeah. Okay, now I get what you were doing.
Yeah,
That makes
we
sense
made it.
now. There we go. Came full circle.
Sorry,
So
carry on.
Top Shelf Records got into a little bit of trouble. So I guess they work with a merchandise company called Awesome Merch, and it's got a distribution service called Awesome Distro, and it's shut down abruptly in late August after going bankrupt. So this left Top Shelf and the entire label without their inventory of records, and everything was currently being held in the warehouse by whoever took over Awesome Distro, and they're pretty much like holding it hostage from
Wow.
Top Shelf Records. So like the quote here is, the mail order fulfillment company we partnered with, Awesome Distro, has gone bankrupt. They've abruptly shut down, owing us tens of thousands of dollars in revenue and forcing us to relocate 17 years worth of inventory immediately with no advance notice.
Oh my God, what a nightmare.
They laid off their entire staff without notifying us, leaving us with no immediate way of shipping out orders or sending records to our artists on tour. The property management company they leased from is withholding access to our inventory, treating it as collateral, and citing that their agreement with Awesome creates legal ground for seizing everything in the building. So what Top Shelf did is they launched a Kickstarter campaign for a measure for fans to kind of help them get some money and just fund any legal efforts that'll be going forward. and to pay for the mounting expenses associated with this disruption.
Wow.
So, and then they said, we don't know if we're vastly overestimating how dire this is. We don't know if we're immensely underestimating how dire this is. So basically, they don't know what's going on, but they know that they need some help to battle this really unique and funky situation. But hopefully, it all works out there because there are some truly great records in their
Yeah.
inventory.
Yeah, not to mention like all the orders they probably took payments for that they now can't ship out, and like upset people. They have to deal with that side of it. That I feel like they have to like have grounds to get their stuff back. Like that.
Yeah, it's theirs.
That's insane.
Yeah, just because you own the building doesn't mean you own what's inside it. Or
Yeah,
I don't know.
right?
I guess that's a complicated thing to.
Like one of those storage wars things.
Yeah.
We bought this warehouse. It's ours now. That is super shady.
Yeah, so not fun, but they have a Kickstarter up on their website if you want to donate. You can donate anywhere between $10 to $40, depending on if you're a digital head, a CD head, or a vinyl head.
Wow. Wow.
Depending on
Yeah,
how much
it's-
you want to help them out.
It's all over their web. Like that's
It's
all their
every single
website is right
page.
now.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Wow. I hope they can get the help they need, because they, like you said, so many great records have came out of this place. Damn. Damn, that's rough. That's rough.
Poor Top Shelf, but hopefully it all works out though, because they've been around for a long time and helped a lot of bands blow up. So
Yeah.
in a good way, not a bad way.
Yeah. I hate to go out on somber news. Should we think of something else real quick?
Listen to the new Nickelback single.
I've seen headlines for it everywhere about how the new Nickelback single is super heavy.
But not really. But I guess for them, kind of.
I played it just on my phone. I didn't give it a fair listen, which I will fully do. This isn't like me being like a Nickelback hardo or anything like that. I just didn't get around to it. But from what I heard, I thought when me and you talked about Nickelback like 15 episodes ago, we found way heavier stuff by them than what this one is. So maybe it's just a new song and people are realizing it. I don't know.
It reminded me of like the Nickelback I was into back in like middle school and high school, like that kind of heavy Nickelback, but it wasn't like as heavy as some of the bands we go to and talk about on the show. But
Silver Side Up and All the Right Reasons. Those were like the two, but Silver Side Up wasn't that heavy, right?
I think Silver Side Up was, but All the Right Reasons wasn't. That had all the hit ballads on it.
It had animals. That's all you need.
Yeah. But it also had Photograph and
Yeah. Yeah. But Silver Side Up had How You Remind Me.
Dave and Me.
I don't understand. I guess no one like Chad Kroger's like a douche apparently, but I don't know why. I don't know if he's actually done anything or if it's just something people have said for so long that it's like just considered a fact now. But
I think people just think he is. I feel like he's not really
because there's plenty of bands in this genre that kind of release the same album over and over and over. So I don't know why Nickelback gets it so bad. They're not the only ones doing like this kind of music.
they get it too bad.
Is that a Nickelback song?
It is. That was a hit from Silver Side Up.
I don't remember. I don't remember it. I saw
41
Nickelback
million
once.
Spotify streams.
I saw Nickelback, Breaking Benjamin, and 3 Days Grace at Prudential Center. It's a good show. It's like 2008.
I think that's when I was seeing them like all the time. Wasn't Seether on that tour too?
I don't know if they were on that tour or if
Oh no, I think I was it Hinder and Seether?
that sounds like it
Sounds
makes
about right.
sense.
Yeah. Hinder, that's another one I haven't thought of in a long time.
Lips of an angel, your name.
Take it to the limit.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe I'll try and I forget that YouTube channel I was talking about. The punk rock MBA or whatever that guy is. Maybe he has one on Nickelback, and I could get some knowledge.
I did watch his Creed one that he did. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I watched that one too. Their lead singer had a rough life.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah, but
Makes you think about them differently.
Yeah, yeah, he still kind of sucks, but
Got to get the punk rock MBA on.
yeah, that'd be
That'd be
really
a fun
cool.
guest.
His videos are really good. It's such a just good way to like learn about a band in like 20 minutes or so.
I was like watching it like because I was like streaming it through the TV, and Sandra was like, "People get paid for this." I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah."
You should, I was like, he has hundreds of thousands of subscribers.
What do you think we're trying to do?
Seriously, though.
It's interesting with those things though, because like he's not like discovering this information, but he packages it up really nicely. He puts in a nice presentation and he tells you the whole story. Like, I don't know. It takes me back to like VH1 Behind the Music and stuff.
I used to love those.
Yeah, same, which is what's so great about like YouTube and like where we're at right now is that people miss stuff. They can just make it. There's this Twitch channel. I don't know off the top of my head, but the dude just plays music videos like all day because he misses MTV.
I gotta find that.
Yeah, I'll try and find his name so I can give him an actual shout out. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I think that might do it for this week. Do we know of anything new coming out next week?
So let's see real quick.
We'll definitely talk about the Ray Museum more in-depthly. I might just talk about Youngblood again because I can't get enough of this album and I don't know why. It's like an 80s dance album almost, and I just can't stop listening to it.
I got to spend more time with that one too.
Also,
I said last episode I would.
He's doing a world tour and he's playing the Stone Pony in July, and tickets are going on sale this Wednesday, which
That's
is
crazy. I thought it was a typo.
That is crazy. I'm just gonna buy two, and then if I can't go, I'll sell them.
There you go.
But yeah, I can't get enough of him. Album is so good.
But yeah, this is a pretty quiet week. Do you listen to Built to Spill at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
So they put a new
they have
album
a
out
lot of
last
music,
week.
so
Yeah,
I'll
I've
check
never
that
really
out.
gone down that rabbit hole though, but I've been meaning to.
They're like pretty influential on a lot of bands we listen to. Hey, they have so much music.
But then the following week, we have
This is it. Unethered Moon. That's the one.
that's the one.
Yeah. It's a
You
good
say,
album.
but the following week, not next week, the week after, we have our Weezer Autumn EP should be here.
Yes, I'm sure.
In addition to new Death Cab and new Wonder Years on the 23rd.
Oh, nice. I like it. That'll be a fun week. I just love anytime we could get Nick Parko on to talk about Weezer.
He didn't hate the last one though, so
No, those are his exact words. I
Yeah.
didn't hate this.
like
That's
Autumn he might hate though. I just have a feeling, unless it literally sounds like the Strokes, then it might be a good one.
Yeah. We'll see though, because my expectations are real low at this point.
Yeah, I'm dreading the acoustic one, but
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right.
that's
I
a
think-
winter problem though.
Yeah. I think that'll do it for tonight. Everyone listen to Great Big Pile of Leaves because it's fall and you're now allowed to listen to them.
And Armor for Sleep.
Oh yeah. Yes, please listen to it because the album is so good. Yeah, thanks again to Ben for coming on. All right. We love you all. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
What's your feet been driven to variety?